Is Ian Garry a cuck, or are we just all projecting, right? I want to talk about what makes a cuck a cuck. Now, to me, the definition I know, a cuck is a guy that likes to watch his wife have sex with other people. Now, I think there's very few men on this earth that would actually submit themselves to that torture. I'm definitely not one of them. I really, really value the person that I'm in a relationship with, and the thought of my girlfriend sleeping with another person, or I guess my ex now sleeping with another person, always made me sick to my stomach. So I'm certainly not, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a cuck, and I'm defending Ian Garry like, hey, this guy, you know, coming from a legion of cucks here, a fellow cuck in the I don't know, what the Council of Cucks. I'm not trying to shoot him bail, but I think we should be a little bit less liberal with using the term cuck. Adam22, Sneeko, those guys might actually be cucks. But since the genesis of this new weird kind of wave of media personalities that are okay with watching their significant others have sex with other people in front of them, everyone's kind of just been throwing that word around willy-nilly. And the reason I want to make this video is because I saw Ian Garry had done a recent interview. The interviewer asked him about the situation with his wife's ex-boyfriend, the world-class nutritionist that of course lives with them. It's a little bit crazy, I'm not gonna lie. And he had this to say. Roll the clip.
He is a professional in one regard. He's also the father of my wife's son. And I never want to be a wedge between a father and a son. I never want that in my conscience. So I know that we're going on this adventure to travel the world. Hey dude, want to travel the world? Be my nutritionist and we can all do this together. We can, you can come and see your son whenever you want. You guys can be there. The two of them are going to Disney this morning. And that's the energy I have. I want to be a good human. I want to be a good man. And I never want to be a wedge between a father and a son. Because I know if someone was to be a wedge between me and my son, I'd be livid. I'd be livid, and I'd hate that person.
Now, this clip made me think, and it made me pause, right? I'm not the biggest Ian Garry hater in the world. I think some of the stuff he said is very, very delusional. And if I had to stake a guess, that would probably be what's going on here. Now, a lot of times in relationships, people get labeled as cucks, when in reality, I think it's more so the dynamic at play. So if you asked Ian Garry if he was secure in his relationship, he would most likely say yes, right? I think at a glance, a lot of people would say yes if his wife's ex-boyfriend is living with them, even if it is under the pretext that you just saw, where Ian Garry wanted his kid to have his father figure in his life. I think it's a very wholesome thing of him to do. Even in those circumstances, the dynamic there is what can cause an issue. For as much as I hate to say, there is probably another factor there that I think Layla is her name, is kind of benefiting from. Now, I'm not going to claim to know their relationship, but I do know that when you do have an ex and there is a child involved, I can only imagine that there's a slew of different feelings going on. Does his nutritionist actually have to live with them? Absolutely not. All these things I'm trying to say is that I don't think if I were in Ian Garry's shoes, I would want all this stuff happening. But do I think that makes him a cuck? No. Do I think that makes him delusional? Yeah. And I've had a relationship like this before where someone has said, oh, you know, there's this old guy from high school I used to know, and he used to pick on me, and I want to get coffee with him because I want to see how much of a train wreck his life has become, right? That's suspicious, considering those two people did things in the past together. That's something that would make me say, and I should have known at the time, hey, yeah, there's probably more feelings there than just wanting to see if this guy's life has turned into a disaster. But when you're in the throes of a relationship, at least I wasn't thinking like that. And if Ian really feels the way he portrays himself feeling about her, I don't think it's too far-fetched when you're in a relationship like that to cope a little bit. Because Ian Garry can say to himself, and again, I think it's a very, I do respect Ian Garry a lot for that, allowing the father of his stepson to still be in the son's life. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think there is also a certain level of cope that's involved, right? Where it's like, does the guy really have to live with us, considering all the things that we've seen and things that have come out about his wife? I'm not even trying to put things on her, right? These are all things you can go, just look up Layla Machado Garry and see the things that pop up, right? These are not stretches. These are things that she's really said. Considering all of that stuff, if I were Ian Garry, and let's just say I get an eagle view on the relationship once it's over, I would probably look back on those things and say, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about the ex-boyfriend staying with us, right? Even if he is my nutritionist, staying in the same house. That's a risk. That's a hazard. That's not being a cuck, but that's risking your wife. You know, if you're out in Australia fighting on some card and your nutritionist is back at the house watching his kid with your wife, I mean, that's a risk. And honestly, that's a headache too. I'm not ruling out the possibility that Ian can be that secure in himself and in his relationship to have an ex stay with them, and maybe they have, I mean, like, stranger things have happened. But the real reason I want to make this video is because I think we need to stop calling this guy a cuck. I do not think that, I mean, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe that's the case. I think we pump the brakes on that and instead look at it more from a constructive viewpoint, where it's like, okay, we're presented with this information about the relationship. We know how his wife handles things. We know how she kind of operates. And we know how Ian Garry, and to be fair, we know that you have to kind of be a certain level of delusional to make it up to the highest points in life. He might just be a little bit delusional about the situation. It's not, I just don't think that makes him a cuck. I really don't. I don't know, maybe that's a confidence thing for Garry. Maybe he has found this woman that he's madly in love with and she understands that and she's utilizing that to her advantage. Or it could be that there's no malice there at all. I don't know, but the only thing I feel like is that we just really shouldn't be throwing cuck around. But until the next one, I'll see you guys. Peace.